Hi, hello and welcome back to F1 Challenge VB. My name is Mephisto and our journey through the history of Formula 1 continues today with the 7th round of the 1960 season, the British Grand Prix. It was held on the 16th of July, it had 25 entries, 24 of them took part in the race but 8 ended up retiring. The race consisted of 77 laps, completed in 2 hours, 4 minutes and 24 seconds. Brabham qualified in pole, Graham Hill started from 2nd, McLaren 3rd, Bonnier 4th, Ireland 5th and Dan Gurney started the race from 6th. Brabham drove an amazing race to win the 1960 British Grand Prix. John Surtees came home in 2nd, 49.6 seconds behind Brabham. Ireland finished in 3rd, he was 1 minute 29.6 seconds behind. McLaren ended up in 4th, he was 1 lap down. Brooks crossed the line in 5th, he was also 1 lap down. And rounding off the top 6 was Von Trips, he was 2 laps adrift. Graham Hill posted the fastest lap of the race and he did it in 1 minute 34.4 seconds. This year's British Grand Prix sees us back at Silverstone, where a lap starts off with a long run down into turn 1, a medium speed right-hander. Turn 2 is next, a fast left-hander that brings us into turn 3, a slow to medium speed right-hander. Keep it tight through here and don't use too much power on the exit. Next we come into turn 4, an open left-hander that brings us onto the longest straight of the track. This ends with turn 5, a medium speed right-hander. After a short sprint we come into turn 6, another medium speed right-hander. We then come through the fastest corner of the track, turn 7, which is more of a left-hand kink than an actual corner. But eventually we find ourselves coming through the final corner, turn 8. This corner can be taken flat out. This brings us back onto the main straight and that is a lap around the Silverstone circuit. And here we are in qualifying for the British Grand Prix, coming around to set our first lap of the session, a 1:36.249. Not very fast at all, but eventually I managed to put in a 1:35.16. Still not fast enough, but this was the fastest I managed to go. I just couldn't get the car going fast enough through the corners, unfortunately. And here are the previous British Grand Prix winners, and we've won quite a few of these. We were actually the last one. We did one in 1959, so hopefully we'll do well this time as well. Anyway, we have Bruce McLaren on pole with Gendebien in 2nd, Sterling Moss is 3rd, 4th is Henry Taylor, followed by Tony Brooks in 5th, and Chuck Day rounding off the top 6. Jack Brabham is in 7th, 8th is Graham Hill, followed by Willie Maurice in 9th, and Joe Bonnier in 10th. In 11th we have Wolfgang von Trips, followed by Jim Clark in 12th. Phil Hill is 13th, 14th Andy Higgs. 15th is Lucien Bianchi, followed by Richie Ginther in 16th. 17th is held by John Surtees, followed by Innes Ireland in 18th. 19th Ronald Flockhart. 20th Cliff Ellison. 21st Dan Gurney and Maurice Trintignant bringing up the rear in 22nd. So that's the grid lineup for the British Grand Prix. Hopefully a good race. Andy is pretty much looking forward to scoring some points. He hasn't scored too many this season, and we are off. A bit of a nudge from someone behind me. I'm not entirely sure who, but I lost a couple of positions, but I then take a look at John Surtees and we move into 16th. I then overtake Maurice and we're still in 16th as one of the Lotus has managed to overtake me on the inside through tops as we now race towards Maggots. We have Phil Hill right in front of us, about half a second in front, and he's slowly pulling away. We now brake for Beckett here and bring the car around as we take another look at the start. A bit of a small puff of smoke coming off the rear of my car, but rear tires, but that's pretty much standard here as I try to jostle for position as everyone else is really fighting for the same bit of tarmac, trying to gain as many positions as possible. However, Andy didn't do it too well. Here's a replay of Lucien Bianchi who crashes into the pit wall, and for some reason he got disqualified after this. I think that's a bit harsh to be disqualified for crashing into the pit wall, but anyway, coming around to finish lap 21, and I tried to avoid crashing into that Lotus. Unfortunately, I broke a bit too hard, locked up my tires and went for a spin, and that caused me to fall down into 21st, and we see Lucien Bianchi still at the side of the road there just at the pit entrance on lap, coming around to finish lap 2, and there are a few cars going into the pits, so we move up into 17th, which is quite nice. Trintignani is right behind us, just 2/10 of a second, now 3/10 of a second behind. Hopefully we can pull away from him, but this is a replay of Willie Mays coming into the pits to retire, not entirely sure why. As we come around to start lap 4, Lucien Bianchi's car is still at the side there, and Graham Hill manages to overtake me. He there in the... I forgot what he's driving, sorry about that. And now he's pulling away, he pulled away quite significantly. Then on starting lap 5, Cliff Allison was at the side of the road to the left there, and he is out of the British Grand Prix as well, as we now chase after Tony Brooks. And here's a replay of Cliff Allison coming through Woodcut here. He loses his brakes, crashes into one of the Yeoman Credit Racing cars, and well, that's pretty much it, because you cannot really race without brakes around here, or around any other track, to be honest. We are still on lap 5 here, and Ronald Flockhart manages to overtake us, so we drop down into 18th. I try to catch up to him, however his car is much faster, and I'm not capable of doing that. Coming around to start lap 7, and Tony Brooks had some sort of a problem with his car at that point, and I managed to slip past him, so we move back up into 17th. Now chasing after Ronald Flockhart once again, who is about 8.5 seconds up the road. Lap 9 now, and Phil Hill is out of the race as people are starting to lap me, which is not very nice, or good even. And here we see a replay of Phil Hill coming through that right-hander, crashes into the Yeoman Credit Racing cars, and he is out. Apparently he has some gearbox problems, so that might explain why he went so wide through that corner. Anyway, coming around to finish lap 12 and start lap 13th, and Jack Brabham is now out of the race, as well as we are chasing after Gandebian. And here is a replay of Jack Brabham coming into the pits. There's a Scuderia as well there, and Jack Brabham retires. We now move on to lap 16, and the sky has gotten darker, and we are still being lapped by the faster cars. Dan Gurney is out of the race, as well as Olivier Gandebian, as we come through this right-hander, and we're just lapped by one of the Lotuses. And here is a replay of Gandebian losing control of his car, which forces him to drive through the pits, and then he kind of gets stuck on the railing there, and he is out of the British Grand Prix. And this is a replay of Dan Gurney now. We can see black smoke coming out of his engine, so that's pretty much it for his race. So anyway, we now move on to lap 23, chasing after Henry Taylor, who is now one full lap ahead of us, so not doing very well here, but at least we're in 13th. And here is a replay of Richie Ginther on lap 25, coming around to set the fastest lap of the race. Unfortunately I don't quite remember how fast that was, but we will see that at the end of the race. And now we move on to lap 24, and Bruce McLaren crosses the line to take the win at the British Grand Prix. Sterling Moss finishes in second, and here is a replay of McLaren coming around to take the win of the British Grand Prix. He comes out of a Woodcut there, crosses the line, and he wins the 1960 British Grand Prix. Very well done to him. Not very good for Andy, obviously, as we now come around as well to finish lap 24 for us, because we were 2 laps behind everyone else, unfortunately. But at least we managed to finish the race, and here are the race results. McLaren wins, Moss second, Von Trips third, Richie Ginther fourth, Surtees fifth, Graham Hill sixth, and Ginther indeed posted the fastest lap of 125.735, so that was quite nice. And here are the retirements, quite a few. Tony Brooks and Maurice Trintignani didn't retire per se, but failed to complete 90% of race distance. Although Tony Brooks was very close to completing the necessary race distance, however, not quite. But anyway, here are the career statistics, and this was Andy's 92nd Grand Prix. His best start is from first, has 5 pole positions, has set 15 fastest laps, his best finishes in first, has completed 66 races, 55 of them in the points, has won 33 Grand Prix, 4 at the Indianapolis 500, 6 in Monaco, has 7 championships under his belt, has scored a total of 370 points, has 25 retirements, has experienced 2,160 out of 2,570 laps, has 6 bronze trophies, 9 silver trophies, 33 gold trophies, and as an extension, 33 podiums. And here is a quick look at the championship standings. Richie Ginther is still in the lead of the championship, however Sterling Moss is now in second and very close to him. Bruce McLaren is third, 4th is Von Trips, Phil Hill 5th, 6th is Innes Ireland, we are in 7th, the last person to score points is Willie Mae Rees down in 17th, and Lucien Bianchi is all the way down in 22nd at the bottom of the standings. So those are the drivers. Andy Higgs has a lot of work to do. He's fallen out of the top 6, so that's not very good, considering that he used to win race after race and season after season in the 50s. So hopefully we'll get a breakthrough in the remaining 3 races, hopefully. Anyway, let's move on to the constructors next. And here we see Ferrari continuing to lead the championship. Rob Walker Racing Team are now in second, Lotus third, Cooper Car Company 4th, 5th is Aston Martin, Owen Racing Organization 6th, and the last team to score points are Yeoman Credit Racing in 7th with 6 points. So those are the constructors, not much to say about that, pretty straightforward. We did in fact start to drop points for the drivers. For the constructors, we'll only start to drop points in the next race, which is the Portuguese Grand Prix at Porto, I believe. So that's going to be quite interesting, although unfortunately, if you remember from last time we raced there, I won't be able to show you any replays of anything because, well, the cameras are placed 600,000 kilometers below the surface of the earth, so that doesn't translate into very good or interesting replays. But anyway, that was the British Grand Prix, a very good race for a bunch of people, not so much for Andy Higgs, who has failed to score points again. Hopefully something will change in the last few races of the season, but who knows. But that is the end of this video. Not much more to add to any of this, so don't forget to vote for next season's team, link is in the description. I also have a second channel where I will be playing all sorts of different games. At the moment I'm doing a playthrough of Diablo 2 and IL-2 Thermovic 1946, so if you're interested in any of that, there will be a link in the description to that as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay sharp.